morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. It's Friday morning, it's autumn, it's the 27th of May. It's the day of my 62nd birthday. And as you can see, looking around, it is a foggy day, which generally means that it's going to fine up once the fog and mist burns off, and hopefully have a great day ahead of us. I'm not working today. I'm going to a CFMEU union delegate meeting, so I'll just walk across the bridge here at Darling Harbour and do a vlog like I normally do. Even though it's my birthday, it doesn't stop me. I've completed over 1,360 vlogs in English and about 60 in Greek. So I'm well on my way to getting to 1,500 vlogs and being one of the most prolific vloggers of personal development material, not only in Sydney, not only in Australia, but in the world. 2 years of focused effort have delivered an outcome which I never thought was quite possible. So it just goes to show, when you just continue to stick to a plan, to a strategy, you keep on clicking away one at a time, one step at a time, eventually you'll get to the point where you've just achieved so much in such a little time that it just surprises you. Anyway, what I'm going to do today is go through a book summary, and an interesting book summary. The book summary is entitled The Story of Philosophy. The Story of Philosophy by an author known as Durant. So where's this going to lead us? Philosophy is one of those topics which I guess intrigues us and interests all of us. So the author of this book kicks off with an observation where he says that civilization begins with order, just like in our lives, in our family lives, in any sort of institution. Everything needs to start with order, with a particular order, and it grows with liberty. So you need freedom of expression, you need freedom of ideas and of sharing, and it dies with chaos. It dies with chaos, which means when you get to the point of having so much liberty, so much freedom, that it fuels anarchy and selfishness and that style of feeling and activity. It leads to the death of civilization. So once again, civilization begins with order, grows with liberty, and dies with chaos. So we're going to talk a little bit more now about philosophy and the evolution of philosophy. But I'm just amazed at this fog around here, just eerie. But we'll kick away, keep on going. So philosophy is both an art and a science, and it evolved over time through a series of small steps and a number of unique but groundbreaking discoveries along the way. So it's a mix of quick and slow steps. So as we say, it grew through incremental steps, so it grew organically, but also along the way there were some people, there were some discoveries which created a step function. Just to give you a sense of where I am, I'm on the bridge here at Darling Harbour on the Cockle Bay side, and I can't see the Ferris wheel on the other side, and I can't see the massive ribbon building. You can probably see the shade of it over there, but you just can't see the building. So the first formal point to come out of this book, and may I also remind you that tonight, the 27th of May, the day of my 62nd birthday, is the commencement of Vivid Sydney. So Vivid Sydney will go from the 27th to the 10th of June, and no doubt it will be an outstanding success following 2 years of lockup and COVID restrictions. I'm sure that people will be dying to get out and about and to be walking the streets of Sydney over the next 2 weeks and taking in the beauty of this expression, and it's going to be even bigger and better this year than other years. So the first formal point to come out of this book from this author is that the author discusses the root, the source of Western philosophy, which is well documented. And he said that much of humanity's essential discoveries started in ancient Greece. So they're his words, Will Durant's words, not mine. So don't think that I'm making this up. But he said that much of humanity's essential discoveries started in ancient Greece, and Greece is recognized as a pylon of philosophical thinking and science, and the birthplace of many groundbreaking discoveries, so much so that Socrates, the Greek philosopher Socrates, is said to be the father of Western philosophy. And of course, Socrates may have fathered his school of philosophy, but there are many schools of philosophy that were fathered in Greece. There's not just one flavour of philosophy, but there are many, many flavours. So Socrates is recognised as being the father of Western philosophy, and of course he was followed by Plato and Aristotle, as well as hundreds and hundreds of others who basically looked like all of us look to understand and find the meaning of life. But it's also interesting to note that Greece has had many fathers of many pylons, spanning across many disciplines, including the sciences, the arts, religion, theatre, you name it. And Greece, over a period of a few hundred years, were able to establish themselves and also learn from others. I'm not saying that it all started in Greece, but many say that a lot of this stuff was perfected, was documented, was founded in Greece, because Greece was a melting pot of cultures, given that Greece was a trading nation, traded with many countries, established many colonies throughout the known world. So a lot of the ideas, a lot of the skills, a lot of the trades ended up coming and expressing themselves in Greece, because Greece was a magnet, a specific and a very special magnet that, as we said, attracted people and skills from all over the world. Just like America today is a knowledge magnet and attracts the best and brightest from each country, so too Greece in its heyday also attracted the best and brightest from all over the known world, who came to learn, who came to share, and who came to express their capabilities, their skills, and their love for what they did. So moving on now, one step further, given that we're talking about philosophy, We talk about a little bit more about Socrates and the Socratic method, where answering questions with questions was one of the key methods that he used. And I guess there's a lesson here for each and every one of us. Being able to ask good quality questions is an enabler to finding out a little bit more about who we are and what we're searching for and what we're trying to achieve. You ask good quality questions, you'll get empowering answers. You ask dumb questions, you'll probably get disempowering answers. So Socrates was the master of the Socratic method that he founded, which basically focused on the ability of one to think deeply and critically and come up with some really interesting and revealing questions, where he questioned morals, he questioned ethics, he questioned governance, he questioned the rules, but he did it in an open way, not in a what's the word I'm looking for? It's not in an anarchistic way. He did it in a way to learn about himself, about his environment, about the people around him. But it got to the point where even the great Socrates, the one who is said to be the father of philosophy, was put to death by his peers for having been said that he corrupted the youth of the day. So even a great philosopher, even somebody who is now revered as being great and who helped shape the modern world, the foundations of our Western civilization, even he was questioned, and at the end he was put to death. So Socrates believed, his core belief was that wise men should rule the state, that aristocrats should rule the state. And I guess for those beliefs, he was punished. And his student was Plato. And Plato carried on the role of philosophy and shared and spread the knowledge that he'd accumulated and he had inherited from his mentor and teacher. And he set up the first academy in Athens. And he too published his material. And in one of his books entitled The Republic, he mentioned and he proposed that people should rule a nation in a democratic way, but with people who were experts in their field, people who had expertise. So it's not about being born into leadership or inheriting leadership because of a bloodline. He believed that the people who should lead a nation, who should lead a state, are the people who are experts in their field. And people should pick leaders based on their academic performance. Have the smartest people, the people who are best positioned to be leaders, and not kinship. Not putting your cousin or your uncle or your brother in a position of power. And that was a style of philosophy that was proposed by Aristotle. And it's interesting to note, it is really interesting to note that modern Greece has been nobbled by this, putting our friends and family and who voted for us into power, putting the kinships into power. And even though 2,500 years before that, Aristotle, Plato, Socrates mentioned that is not the way to go. So talking about Aristotle set up a lyceum, so continued the tradition of educating and looking for answers in a world that was, I guess, puzzling at best to most. But just like they did 2,500 years ago, we too today, each and every one of us, are searching for answers, are trying to become philosophers in our own right. And I guess the important lesson, of course, is to know and to understand that what we need to do is to ask empowering questions, to read, to get educated, and to continue to circulate with people across many, types of lifestyle and background, to get a balanced view in terms of what makes people tick, so that we can compare and contrast our lives to theirs, and to try and get a better understanding and a better view, basing and comparing and contrasting the slithers of reality that we have to the slithers of reality that others have. Because at the end of the day, we are all going to have a different past. We are all going to experience a different present. I am here, you are there, you are somewhere else. Your experience at the moment is going to be absolutely completely different to my experience. And we're going to have different futures. So we're all going to have different slithers of reality, which is going to shape our worldview, is going to shape the way we deal with the challenges that come our way. And we're all going to have different challenges along the path of life as well. We're all going to have a quota of problems, and God sends his gifts wrapped in problems and suffering and pain. Some of us may have a tsunami of problems which hit us all at the one time, but they will all pass. All problems will pass, and things will get better. So let's move along and just continue along our merry way with this book summary. The next person that the author talks about in his book summary is a philosopher known as Spinoza, who reformulated the meaning of religion in ancient times. He was a person who was a Jew in Holland in the 16th century. And he talked about that the fact that we shouldn't interpret the Bible literally. We should look at the metaphors and look for an allegorical meaning. And he argued that there was no such thing as free will, and that people were driven by a survival instinct, which is interesting, an interesting point of view. And he argued there was no free will, and we're all basically trying to fulfill our desires that we don't have any control over. So once again, just like economists, when you speak to philosophers, you ask 100 people what the meaning of life is, and you may come up with 150 different views, different opinions. Each person, as we said, comparing and contrasting and basing his worldview based on their own lenses, their own slithers of reality, their own learnings that they've picked up over time. So the last one to talk about, or that we talk about or we pick from this book, is Voltaire. And he was a philosopher who helped France enter the Enlightenment phase with writings that were criticised, were controversial, and he paved the way. This is really interesting, that he, with his philosophy, he, with his writings, paved the way for the French Revolution, a revolution which changed the way the world was, changed the way we all interacted with each other, with governments, and with other countries. So his writings were, as we said, controversial and were criticised by people, but he also brought to light many topics which ended up, creating a revolution. They were so powerful that he changed the way the world viewed itself and the way saw itself. So his writings and his abilities back then, as we said, founded the French Revolution, and it was, as we said, the foundation for enlightenment. And what he did was he touched on some very, very tough questions, and looked for the meaning and the purpose of each person's life, not the life of the aristocrats, but the life of each and every person, and the expression of these desires in people. He made it manifold across communities, so everybody got a feel or an understanding for what people in general yearn for. So there you go. So I'll finish up now. I've finished this book summary on this mystical Sydney morning, a day, an autumn day. We're just about to enter into winter. It is quite cold, but not too cold. One of the beauties of Sydney is that we live in a country where the weather is mild and the seasons aren't too varied. You know, spring, summer, you can basically get around with a similar sort of clothing requirements. You don't need to be smuggled in big overcoats or anything like that. So once again, we've just finished this book entitled The Story of Philosophy by Durant, and I look forward to coming to you again from a different place with a different message of empowerment, where we showcase and highlight the beauties of this city around us, and as we say, we overlay it with a message of empowerment. So thank you very much for joining me on this journey of discovery on this beautiful, misty, foggy morning, and I'll chat to you again. Take care and all the best. Bye for now.